All right, so you wanted to take a deep dive into the world of Sha EK and Bronx drill.
You asked, and we shall deliver.
I gotta say, I've been bumping his music for weeks now, getting ready for this. It's intense.
Yeah, it's raw, it's gritty, it's the reality of the streets.
For real, it's like every other line is about shootings, weapons, death. But it's strangely catchy, right?
Absolutely. It's that paradox of Bronx drill, this hyper-local, raw, violent energy, but musically it's infectious.
It reminds me a little of like that UK drill sound we've talked about before. Dark, but kind of hypnotic, you know?
So that rawness, that intensity sucks you in. But to your point about the violence in Sha EK's lyrics, it's not just for shock value. It reflects a very real, high-stakes world.
Yeah, he's not just making this stuff up in the studio. Speaking of, can we talk about the phrase, everything dead? He says it all the time.
Right. It's almost like his tagline, isn't it?
Yeah, like what's that about?
Well, in that world, you got to remember, language is power. When he says everything dead, he's making a statement. Think about it. It's his way of
Yeah.
planting his flag, saying, this is our territory, don't even try us.
So it's not necessarily about a specific rival gang then, more like a declaration of dominance.
Precisely. It's about claiming his space.
Mhm.
And, this whole idea of territory and rep isn't unique to gangs or even Bronx drill. Think about it.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how people rep their hometown or their favorite sports team?
Oh, all the time. People get crazy about their sports teams online, like it's their whole identity or something.
Exactly. It's about belonging, about claiming your side. But in Sha EK's world, those stakes are way higher. It's not just about bragging rights. It's about survival, respect, carving out your space in a world that can be unforgiving. That's where understanding the other groups he shouts out is so important. You've got the OGZs, his crew, but then there's the Gees, the Rips, the Macs, Blamma.
Dude, I know. I was trying to keep track of all the different groups and who hates who, and it got so confusing.
It's a whole ecosystem of alliances and rivalries. If you think about it, if Sha EK's lyrics are like our roadmap, then these gang names, they're the landmarks and danger zones.
Okay, yeah.
And probably the biggest rivalry that jumps out is OGZ versus Geese.
Oh, for sure.
There are tons of references to that throughout his songs.
And we can't forget about Blama. He has a whole diss track called Illegal. Talk about making a statement.
Right. And there's that line in one of his songs where he says, baby girl, we don't mess with no blamma.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
as direct as it gets.
And it's crazy how he uses these names, these groups. It's like they're characters in a story, you
Oh,
know?
absolutely. He's a storyteller, no doubt, building this whole world with his lyrics.
Yeah, like you said, world building. And the way
Yeah.
he throws in those super specific details, like street names and stuff.
Yeah. Like, he's lived it, right? Adds this whole other level of authenticity.
For real. It's like he's giving you a guided tour of his life or something.
And that's what makes it so powerful, especially for people from the Bronx. It's like either you're in the know or you're not.
Okay, yeah, that's a great point. It creates this whole other layer, almost like a secret language.
Exactly. And even with all the dissing and the rivalries, there's this strong sense of loyalty, especially towards his crew, the OGZs.
Oh, totally. It's like family. You can really feel it in the lyrics. Remember that line from, I think is Who You Touch. He says, "Man, roll my brother since I was a jit."
Oh, yeah. Powerful line.
Well, like we're talking about a bond that goes way back.
Absolutely. That's not just some friend. That's loyalty forged through thick and thin. You don't mess with someone's brother in that context. And it makes those moments when he talks about loss hit even harder.
Yeah, there's a lot of grease in these songs.
Right. And you start to see the weight of that lifestyle, the emotional toll it takes. Like you never want to be them. It's almost like he's not just mourning those he's lost, but also confronting his own mortality.
That's deep. And you can hear that kind of push and pull he feels between the streets and wanting something more and got bigger, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
On the one hand, there's excitement. He's signing a record deal, he's making money.
Yeah.
But then there's this melancholy there too. Almost like he knows he can never really escape where he came from.
It's like he's torn between these two worlds. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, even if they haven't lived that life.
Oh, absolutely. It's universal. That feeling of being pulled in different directions. Trying to figure out who you are, who you want to be.
For sure. And talking about different sides of himself, let's get into how Sha EK plays with those different emotions in his music. I mean, you've got the hard drill beats, the aggressive lyrics, but then...
But then, bam, he hits you with these moments of vulnerability.
Right, and it's unexpected.
Totally. It's what makes him such a compelling artist. He's not afraid to be vulnerable, to let you see the cracks in that tough exterior.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
he's saying, look, I'm a real dude. I got feelings too. It makes him human, you know?
Absolutely. It reminds us that even in the hardest places, even in the middle of chaos, people still crave connection, intimacy.
It's like those different sides we all have, right? Like we act differently with our friends than we do with our families, you know?
Well,
It's normal to adapt.
exactly. It's human nature to code switch depending on who you're with and where you are.
Totally. And by showing us those different sides, those vulnerable moments, Sha EK makes it clear that gangsters have feelings too.
Right. And that complexity, that willingness to be real, it's what makes those moments so powerful.
You know, we've talked about the violence, the loyalty, the drive in Sha EK's lyrics, but there's this other layer we haven't really gotten into yet.
The ladies.
Yeah, exactly. How he talks about women.
Right, right. It's interesting, isn't it? You see those classic hip hop tropes pop up
Yeah.
sometimes, like the thotties, the girls who are into him because he's got money, that kind of thing.
For sure. But then there are these other moments where he's talking about wanting a real relationship, you know,
Yeah.
being heartbroken when it doesn't work out. Like, in my all, it's kind of surprising.
Right. It adds this whole other level to who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that world, being vulnerable, showing your emotions, it could be seen as weakness, you know?
Oh, totally. Like you're giving someone an advantage over you.
Exactly. So the fact that he puts those feelings out there, the heartbreak, the desire for something real, it's huge.
Mm. Yeah, it's like he's saying, yeah, I'm from the streets, but I'm human too.
Exactly. He's got a heart. And that complexity, that honesty, it's what makes him so relatable, even to people who've never stepped foot in his world.
I feel that. And it makes you wonder, like, how much of that tough exterior is just armor, you know?
Oh, I'm sure it's the defense mechanism, right?
Mhm.
In that world, if you let people see your weak spots, you're vulnerable.
No doubt. It's like survival mode all the time.
Exactly. But even with all that, you still see these glimpses of him wanting something real, like it deeper than rap, where he talks about taking a picture of a woman's chat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What's that about?
It just suggests this desire for something more than a fling,
Yeah.
Like he wants to hold on to something, even if it's just a picture.
It's like he's searching for something authentic in this world that's all about fronts and fake relationships.
Exactly. And that search for authenticity, for real connection, that's something everyone can relate to, right?
Totally, totally, 100%. It makes me think about his latest EP, you know, Drill is Dead. Like, with everything we've talked about, the range of emotions, the depth, do you think he's trying to move away from the drill scene, or is it more about, like, showing how the genre can be more than just violence?
That's the big question, right?
Mm.
Man, honestly, I think it's a bit of both. He's definitely aware of the controversy around drill music, the whole idea that glorifies violence, but he's also challenging those assumptions.
Kind of like he's saying, look closer. There's more to this music, more to me than you think.
Exactly. And more to the genre itself, right? It can be complex, it can be vulnerable.
Yeah, it can be about way more than just, I'm going to shoot you.
Right. There's room for growth, for evolution, and honestly, it's exciting. It makes you wonder what he's going to do next.
Right. Like, where does he go from here? That's what I love about music, man. It can be this window into a world you might not otherwise know, these experiences, these stories that need to be told. Sha EK just happens to be one voice in a whole chorus of artists coming out of the Bronx.
Absolutely. And it's on us, the
Yeah.
listeners, to keep an open mind, to look beyond the surface and engage with the deeper themes. Right?
100%. Because it's about more than just catchy phrases or shocking lyrics. It's about understanding the human stories behind the music, behind the everything dead. And those stories, they're way more powerful than any stereotype.
Couldn't have said it better myself.